Education to order. Could I have the roll call, please?
Richard Levin.
Present.
Melissa Fox.
Present.
Ryan Benyo.
Present.
Mark Halls.
Present.
Lisa Pop. Present.
And now, Mark, I have to administer the oath of office to you.
Yes.
There's no drum roll. You can stay right there. That's fine. No formality. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the State of Ohio, that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education of the West Reserve Local School District, Mahoning County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? If so, please answer, I do. I do. Congratulations.
Thank
Now let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, back on the agenda, Treasurer's recommendations. Item number 1. It is recommended that the minutes of the January 15, 2014 organizational meeting and the January 15, 2014 regular meeting of the West Reserve Local Board of Education be approved as mailed to each member in advance of the meeting. So moved. Second.
Mr. Benyo.
Yes.
Mr. Blevins.
Yes.
Mr. Halls.
Yes.
Mrs. Fox.
Yes.
Mrs. Pop.
Yes.
It is recommended that the January 2014 financial reports be approved. January listing of bills be approved as mailed to each member in advance of the meeting. So moved.
I'll second it.
Mr. Blevins.
Yes.
Mr. Halls.
Yes.
Mrs. Fox.
Yes.
Mrs. Pop.
Yes.
Mr. Benyo.
Yes. It is recommended that Jacob Zatchok be hired as assistant baseball coach for the 2014 season.
So moved. I'll second.
Mr. Halls.
Yes.
Mrs. Pop.
Yes.
Mrs. Pop.
Yes.
Mr. Benyo.
Yes.
Mr. Blevins.
Yes. Superintendent's recommendations. It is recommended that the 2014-15 school calendar be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pop.
Yes.
Mrs. Pop.
Yes.
Mr. Benyo.
Yes.
Mr. Blevins.
Yes.
Mr. Halls.
Yes. Item number 2, resolution to authorize superintendent to accept resignations between board meetings. It is recommended to authorize the superintendent on behalf of the board to accept resignations which have been submitted by employees during times when the board is not in session, subject to ratification by the board, provided, however, that upon ratification by the board, such resignations shall be deemed effective as of the date and time of the superintendent's acceptance. This authorization shall be in effect for the 2014-2015 school year. So moved.
Second. Mrs. Pop.
Yes.
Mr. Benyo.
Yes.
Mr. Blevins.
Yes.
Mr. Halls.
Yes.
Mrs. Pop.
Yes.
Item number 3, resolution to authorize superintendent to hire staff between board meetings. It is recommended to authorize the superintendent during periods when the board is not in session to make offers of employment directly to candidates for either teaching or non-teaching positions on behalf of the board and to acknowledge acceptance of such offers on behalf of the board, subject to a subsequent vote of ratification by this board, provided, however, that upon ratification by the board, the employment shall be deemed effective as of the date and time of the employee's acceptance of the superintendent's offer. Nothing in this resolution shall require the Board of Education to employ or continue to employ an individual who has not provided a criminal records check satisfactory to the board or has not satisfied any other prerequisite to employment created by law or board policy. This authorization shall be in effect for the 2014-2015 school year.
These are the same motions, and we did last year. Just in the case of emergency, like Andrew Whitmer, we hired him late in August last year. It's an example where school was ready to start, we had a vacancy, and we were able to move on that to let that person know they were going to be employed. Obviously, I would let always know. In either case, resolution number 2 with the accepting resignations or the hiring. So it's only for those purposes.
Second.
Mr. Benyo?
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
It is recommended that the board approve January 28, 29, 2014, February 5th, 2014 as calamity days, and also 2-hour delays on January 22nd, 24th, and 27th, 2014 due to inclement weather conditions, and forward the request to the Ohio Department of Education for a calamity day waiver.
What do we have left, Jeff?
That makes 5, and that's the amount right now that you're allowed. There was a House committee that approved the resolution to add an additional 4. However, last I heard, they sent that back from the House or the Senate to look at some alternative ways of adding that. BASA did a survey a couple times here in the last couple of weeks. I think the average statewide is about 7 that most have used. Some up in northwestern Ohio have used as many as 12 or 15 days. So I think something's going to come out. Right now we're at 5. As an option, we have that waiver day in March that we weren't going to have classes that we can use if we need to make up. The other item is the school year ends, I think, on a Wednesday in June. We could add a couple days there. But the blizzard bags is an option you may have heard about, and I've really chosen not to go that route. I don't want it to become a bad public relations thing where teachers are giving kids crossword puzzles and word searches for, or the other end of it, the lessons are so complex that parents are complaining because they got to run their kids to the library and do this and do that. So I think if we're over 5 or whatever amount they come up with, we'll make those days up. And I'll talk a little bit later on about next year with the hours and where we are with that, how that's going to change some of that as well. These will be our 5. The 2-hour delays still are not counted as those 5 calamity days, so but the 5 days is where we are with the max.
So moved on number 4.
Second. Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benyo?
Yes.
It is recommended that Joseph T. Sorensky be hired as assistant baseball coach for the 2014 season. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benyo?
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes. It is recommended that Carla Duda be approved as an unpaid volunteer ski club advisor for the 2013-14 school year.
So moved.
I'll second.
Which one are you seconding? Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benyo?
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
We have several volunteers that are at the ski club, and it's an unpaid position. I know that for a couple of reasons that some weren't available, I think one of the next couple of trips they have. So they pay for their own skiing, and whatever. It's just an extra adult there for I think we've got about 20 kids that go to ski clubs. So, we like to have at least 2 adults there trying to keep them out. So another addition to that group.
Number 7, it is recommended that the following teachers be added to the certified substitute list: Galen Mowry, Joshua Smith, Andrew Timko.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benyo?
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes.
Number 8, it is recommended that the reading skills assessments and intervention policy, which is the 3rd grade reading guarantee, be approved as read at the January 2014 board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
It is recommended that the promotion and retention of students policy be revised and approved as read at the January 24, 14 board meeting.
I don't think I remember that one.
Yeah,
Those were the two policies that we had at
There
the
should be
last
copies
meeting.
in your folders.
They're in your
Talk about
folder.
that? I should remember.
Yeah, we talked about both of those at the last meeting. The retention and policy was
that's
just
right.
an update, kind of coinciding with the third grade guarantee, to where if the student was below proficient on the achievement test, they could be retained in third grade until they met
That's right.
that. So it's basically the same that we've had, we just included the third grade provision in what was already in existence. So
Okay.
that's why it's a revision more than a new policy.
So
Second. Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benyon?
Yes.
Number 10, it is recommended that the following track coaches be hired for the 2014 season. Assistant, Brett Powell. Assistant, Patsy Del Torio. Junior high, Harry Owens. Junior high, Gary Ferrando.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benyon?
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes. We're now going to the, since there aren't any reports because we're all tied up with parent-teacher conferences, we're going to the superintendent's recommendations, which is the addendum. Number 1, it is recommended that Katie Sorensky be hired as assistant softball coach for the 2014 season.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Mr. Benyon?
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
It is recommended that LaDonna Horton be added to the certified substitute list.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benyon?
Yes.
Number 3, it is recommended that the agreement between the governing board of the Mahoning Valley Regional Council of Government and the Western Reserve Local School District be approved.
This is the Mahoning County ESC is starting this. It's a COG, or a Council of Governments, where school boards can join together, combine services on some things, and they are starting to do some things with the hiring of teacher aides, potentially substitute teachers, substitute bus drivers, and we're really not involved with any of them right now. This just simply means that should the time come that we want to participate in something that they're doing to save some costs, we'll have the authority to join them. It's kind of we don't have to be, it's not all in, and all the...
Like a shared substitute list or a shared bus driver list kind of?
Yeah, basically what we would do, and we don't have a lot of paraprofessional aides, that type of thing, but what it would be is those people would be hired by the county, and then we would basically go
Feed
through
off
them.
that.
On occasion with our MD units, some of the aides there are hired through Callis, which is like a temp service. Basically, this COG would do what Callis, instead of a business doing that, our educational service center would be providing that service for a little bit of a savings should we go to that. So, and they would take care of the benefits and salary and payroll and all of that, through that. So, like I say, for us, not a whole lot of opportunities right now, but they're looking to expand some of those things, and down the road it may be. So it'd just be a matter that we would be part of that and choose to use that as we saw fit.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Halls?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benyon?
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes. It It is recommended to renew the agreement with Access for the district's internet and email service, application services including the USAS accounting system, USPS payroll system, EMIS, student information system, voicemail, phone services during the 2014-15 school year at a cost estimated at $21,167.
Again, this is the same that we've always used. This is our inner workings that we depend on every day for the
Very nice.
student data,
Right.
phones, the whole bit.
So moved.
Mrs.
Second.
Potts?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Blevins?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Jeff, turn it over to you.
Coming back. Kind of update you on some things that we've been working on and things that are ongoing. You had approved that 2014-15 calendar, and starting next school year, the minimum requirement is based on number of hours, not number of days. And the state says the minimum number of hours for grades 6 through 12 is 1,001 hours, and we are at about 1,114. Now, what that means with these calamity days, at a 7-hour day roughly, you can see we're 113 hours over. Essentially, that's given us more than the 5 days we have. But the 2-hour delays would come off of that total. So it still gives a little bit more leeway, and there's provisions in that law that we can't reduce our daily hours because we're over. You still have to maintain the same hours you have. Elementary or grades K through 5, again, the minimum is 910. We're at 1,038, again, very similar to the difference between the two. And again, those are hours of actual seat time. Does not include lunch or recess. So, we're well above that minimum amount of hours. It really doesn't create the need for any type of change in our calendar from year to year. So, we're in pretty good shape with that. You approved 2 policies today. We've been in contact with OSBA, and the last time our policy manual was officially updated, I guess, was in 2007. And we're investigating options to update our policy on our own. What seems to be the most appealing, because our policy was updated by OSBA in 2007, so the format's very much the same. And again, for about $3,600, the one option is they'll provide sample policy, quarterly updates, and it will just be a matter of going through and making sure that our policies, much like the revision on that promotion and retention policy, there might be a few lines we have to add. Another one that will be coming up soon will be the change for the school year, because the school year changes from days to hours. So we just felt that would be a more economical way of doing that without somebody coming in and setting a time, and then we've got to sit with them and say, well, here's what we have here. Here's we can go through that and do a lot of it ourselves. So we're going to look into it a little bit more, and we'll have something for you more at the March meeting as far as approval. Go ahead, with something like that. But I know the correspondence I got from OSBA was that they did an update in 2007, and there were quarterly policy update information sent to the school in 2008, 2009. But then that stopped until 2013 that we started back up with those quarterly updates. So I'm concerned we have some gaps in there, and as laws change, there are things that have to be revised or changed or policy made. So something we're going to look at as a project to update our policy. So just kind of no action on that right now. We'll have more at the March meeting. I know quite a while back, Lisa sent me an email regarding signs and parking and that. I'm starting to look at that, and we've got a real issue out here, and it started with our own employees who park the night workers park right there at the dumpsters. Well, people coming in the games, they don't know they just see those vehicles. They don't realize they're employees, so they start parking. Pretty soon we got cars double parked, and so we've got some no parking signs we're going to put on this driveway between the buildings. If there's any other signs that you've had people say, I know there was talk of which entrances, and, so we're going to look at that, so if you can just, shoot me an email or...
Because like the gymnasium, the cafeteria,
They
people don't
need
know,
to be-
the reserve gymnasium, now that we're naming it that. Even just the front of the school entrance, what's there, like the media room,
Yeah.
the library.
For conferences, which doors are open to get into
Yeah,
the conference.
very-
Well, yeah, and we've talked
You
about
can't
that.
always park in the front.
And the parking is really kind of a...
Exactly.
It's
So I
not-
saw people
And
trying to get
people
in
pull in
different
here and they
doors.
don't know, okay, where's the
Yeah.
gym? They don't know that that's our main entrance. And we
So,
usually
we're going to get some of those ordered and get those put up here. It's a little bit late in the basketball season now to do anything with it, but we'll have it for
Good.
the rest of the way
I
out.
don't know how
So,
to look into it, but I've heard a lot of complaints about
Pardon me?
handicap parking. The
What's-
parking being so far handicap
yeah,
parking.
yeah, and even I was thinking a sign that might say handicap drop-off, something like that,
Exactly.
where
Yeah, that's a
people
good
can
one,
go
yeah.
up and drop off.
They
So,
did so dark.
anything that you guys, shoot me an email, and we'll be getting those
Thank
going
you,
here
I appreciate
soon.
it. I have a lot of people asking about that.
Yeah. On our electrical issue of the update, the metering has been done by Tri-Area Electric. They put a meter on our, basically our incoming line into the building. Ohio Edison put a meter on the main transformer out here. I talked to Chris Firestone, the electrical engineer, emailed back and forth the last couple of days. As it says there, it appears that we've got a high voltage on one phase that was measured by the monitors, and he's kind of working with Ohio Edison to get these printouts. I did send him another bit of information today when we had some issues where our battery backup for our computer system would kick off and on a couple different times, and he said that's interesting information, and he was going to actually have Tri-Area come back out and meter that particular box that feeds that supply. He said at least right now he's thinking that some protection on the single phase is worth looking at, so making some progress on that. Windmill update. I finally got from Mr. Duda, there's a private mediation set for April 22nd at 1 o'clock at the County Sanitary Engineers. Any board members are welcome to attend. I would, maybe if one or two of you were able to, that would be good, because I don't know if we're going to get any type of agreement or offer, but it'd be good to have somebody else just to consider some of the things that may come out of that meeting. If that's unsuccessful, then there's a final pre-trial May 6th, and then a jury trial set for June 2nd. I've already contacted, some of you may recall, a couple years ago, Mr. Swindler had got some quotes from the company that put the windmill up at Myers, and those are 2 years old now. I talked to this gentleman this morning. He's going to come out next Thursday. We're going to go through more updated pricing that it would cost, so we have a figure to go off of with the mediation. I also talked to Dave Harris to see if there were any other, in that circle of engineers and so on, if there was anybody else that did construction of windmills and that type of thing, to get a couple of costs so we have some ideas of some figures in our behalf when that mediation comes out. So again, anybody who would be interested, let me know, and we'll go to that mediation. I'm not sure what private mediation means, if that's just without officials from the court, if that's just the two groups sitting down and looking at options or what. But so that's the latest on that. The auditors, we had a meeting. Kathy and I met with the state auditor this week regarding the closeout of the year audit for the year ending June 30th of 2012. There were really two items that were brought up. Neither was, I would consider, a major concern. One had to do with the closing out of the Kindergarten Learning Academy, and when that ceased to exist in 2012, some of the assets were to have been either auctioned off or sold or offered for sale, and basically they were just given to the Western Reserve School System. So, those were two separate school districts, even though they're housed in the same building. Really, the big thing was there were two smart boards that were valued at over $5,000 a piece that were more or less the property of that school district given to us as opposed to being sold.
So what happened?
they said worst-case scenarios is we might be billed by ODE for $10,000 for, the cost of those 2 smartphones. Didn't sound like that would be the case, but, that was something that's the way some of that equipment and some of the assets should have been disposed of, as opposed to just saying, moving. So, the other item involved checks and balances that applies to our cafeteria reporting, cash deposits. We have 2 cafeteria workers that take the money every day. That, along with the NutriKids, where the kids punch in their code, and they were suggesting that there would be somebody who oversaw the cashiers. We explained we're a limited resource, limited personnel. The NutriKids is kind of a checks and balances because there's no money handled. It's just you punch in that number and say, 1 lunch and $2 is automatically plugged into the receipts for that day, even though no money changes hands. And the auditor was pretty understanding of that. And Kathy said she checks the final. We don't have somebody who sits back and says, okay, give me everything, I'll count it.
They want a kitchen manager or
Yeah.
a food service director
Right,
or
we have
whatever.
2 people together counting the money. How are we doing this?
We have 2 cashiers, and then they count their drawers down and turn that money into the girl who does all of the paperwork and reports. She makes the deposit. She
Paperwork
is
trail as far as, what's received there,
that
passing.
there's 2 reports ran from each cash register. There's line 1 and line 2. And then there's a 3rd piece of paper that is the 2 combined that they bring to me with the full deposit.
So in a sense, she's
Are you reviewing that? Okay.
And the one person's reviewing by the other 2, right? The 2 do their registers, and the other one's double checking them.
But one of those people is one of those people.
Yeah.
Because is there really a checks and
Do you know
balance
what I
though?
mean?
Unless only what's rung up is what's going to be accounted for. You can't really check it against
Well,
food
and I
that's-
said
Right, how do you do
the
that?
most difficult part of that is probably more than half of our parents now do it online. So there's money showing on this report that there's not money in that bag.
Hand.
Do you know
I
what I
imagine everything
mean?
online,
So,
right.
I mean, I don't see how.
So there's not a lot of money in the register, so
No,
most of it's
there's really not compared to what it used to be.
And that's a good thing. That is.
Yeah, and like I said, the auditor,
Right.
she was pretty
When
okay
we explained
with
the NutriKids
that.
part
Yeah.
of it, she seemed to be better. It's not just a cash register like we used to have.
Yes, yes, yes.
Just a little
So-
cash register.
Those were the 2 items, and neither one was considered by them to be a major issue that needed to be rectified or action taken.
Do we have cameras on the cash register?
Not directly, but they're in the field of view of the cameras if we had to look. I'm not sure how. See, and again, that's, you might have 10 kids that come through and 6 would just punch a number, and then, a couple would pay.
And they're right in the middle of the open, so it's really
Yeah.
hard for somebody to take money from the register. I mean, they're like surrounded, by, you know what I mean?
And the other side of it, like he had told the auditor, is the only ones that are allowed to receive change are high school kids. Everything else comes to any change that they would get goes directly into their account. So there's not a lot of money
Yeah.
coming
And we did
back.
that with the high school kids because sometimes the parents give them $20 on Monday and say, this is your money for the whole week, and, well, they want to buy something after school or that.
Or if you're having college.
Middle school and elementary, if they pay with cash, if it's a 10, it goes into their account. So, and they were fine with that. The only other thing was that she had mentioned if you guys would like her to come or would like to meet, it would be like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. She could give you a report, a board report of their findings for that year. That's entirely up to you guys. So those were the two real items, and neither one of us were really part of that. So,
That was it.
Fresh out.
But it would have to be 3 or 4 o'clock
gonna
because she is
micromanage it.
done working at 5 is what she had said.
That's what you're hired for,
So-
and that's what, if you say that that's the way it is, then I totally trust you.
But I got matches being
I'm not going to micromanage you.
And we're going to be
When,
micromanaging.
what she was talking about mostly with the cafeteria was things that were happening in 2010 10 and 11.
Before the NutriKids.
Right, before NutriKids. That is when
Ah,
they
that's
had come in and
frustrating.
witnessed.
Yeah.
So they haven't been back in to witness
Yeah, it
the
was way
NutriKids
different.
and the new system
For
and
a whole
everybody
school year
being
too,
in. Right.
because this ended the June of 2012, well, we moved into the building December of
Right.
2011, and NutriKids really didn't get rolling till January of 2012, so there was only about 5 months of
Right.
the NutriKids part of that.
And I do
So,
believe that when they were here is when we were trying to even get the little kids to memorize their PIN numbers. I mean, it was very...
It was a whole new system
it was-
that changed, yeah.
And it wasn't pretty. I mean...
Right. Everybody was leery of it, they
It
didn't know.
it was,
Right.
yeah. So,
Okay?
but I need to call her if you want to. I mean, it's...
But
We
you
can
guys
get
went
you,
to, I'm good.
I mean, we can give them a copy of that.
I'm good, sure.
I can put the report in your folders next
Yeah, I was
month.
going to say, if you want to see a copy of their report,
That would be good.
That'd be
Yeah.
we
pretty
can copy that. Okay, number 7, the straight 8 fund for the solar. We got our scoring rubric back, and I guess it's even more confusing than the whole grant. One person gave us all no's. Another person that scored it gave us all yeses, and the third person gave us 4 yeses and a no. So I don't know what to make of it. One person said that the fiscal statements did not apply. The other person said the fiscal statements are very clear and tied right to the budget. So the whole thing is just, it's such a frustration. If we didn't have it already written again, I don't know if I'd submit it again for the second round. But it's written, we can tweak it. We've got a little bit more time this time. I've already sent that information. I've already got some feedback from the professor from the University of Akron that we're going to collaborate with on this project. The solar energy already, they've looked at it. So we'll throw it again. I mean, basically to get, what do we say, 8 out of 15 things were yeses. And, yeah, so...
It's worth a try.
Yeah, and so, we're going to, they've got some webinars on some of the things they're looking at, and, the big things they talked about was innovative and sustainability and, reallocating of funds, more or less, and we thought that was pretty cut and dry. We were doing that. There was money that was going to be put to the solar energy. We would save costs on electricity, which would be put right into a STEM program, and not sure, some of the difficulty with that is they limit only so many words to fill in for your responses, and you've got to start cutting some words, and it's sometimes a challenge to make it all fit. But anyway, that's where we are. We're planning in March to submit for round 2 and see what happens. Our emergency bus routing, we only have 3 sub-drivers. This year, between the passing of Stormy Kale, and we have another driver now whose husband is very sick and has been in and out of intensive care since the 1st of January. So we've had a lot, we've basically tied up one of our subs almost every day this year, only leaving 2. Things come up, they're not available, and so that's where we are with that. Our backup plan when we're short one is to go to a 6-bus route. We're going to have to do
Is that
that.
the call that I got the other day?
The sound is horrible when I use the computer. I'm going to do another one for Monday night.
Oh, I thought it was good.
Yeah. Basically what we do is we eliminate bus number 2 and take portions of bus 2's route and add that to some of the other buses. It means some are going to get picked up and dropped off later. I tried to explain that in the all-call. That was one thing. That's one thing I learned from the first time we did that.
Yeah.
Was, okay, we need to do an all-call. So I did one last night. I'll do another one Monday night just to remind them, because we're going to
Did it work out okay, though, with the kids?
Yeah, it really did, and and a credit to the teachers and the bus drivers and getting the kids. And I ended up taking one middle schooler home because he really didn't pay attention to the bus we told him to get onto. And we had a couple of elementary kids crying, but I guess if you only have a couple of them crying, that's not a bad thing.
That's a normal thing, right? I mean, really.
But we had some get home a little bit later than usual, and a couple of parents called in, and understandably so. But unfortunately, we have to go to that sometimes.
Yeah.
Gotta do what you gotta
It was
do.
very, very well explained, I thought.
Well, thanks. Finally, the last thing on track resurfacing, I contacted Dave Harris, and as soon as we get some snow off of the track, He's got a civil engineer who has done some tracks to give us some guidelines on some specs and what we should, based on his suggestion, rather than just call a company in and they say, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. So as soon as the weather breaks, we're going to look at that, get some projected costs on that, and that's going to be priority number one, because we're at least 1 year, maybe 2 years behind on our cycle of getting that redone. So as soon as we have some costs on that, we'll look at that, because there's really a limited time window from the time track ends and football begins to get that work done. So, and that's it. It was a busy day.
Good job.
Thank you, Jeff. Mr. LeBlanc, you have anything you'd like to share with us?
I don't know if Jeff shared with you tomorrow, Ryan from Jackson Geothermal is coming in to work with Ed and Dave to go over some things with our air handlers. I don't know if I wasn't here, I was at a conference, but didn't know if he'd mentioned that already. It's part of the contract that we have worked out with him. It'll be a good experience because he's going to walk them through some things. What we're finding is a lot of our contactors and a lot of our motors are not, we're getting to the point where after a year and a half we're having to replace them. Well, we don't know, and that's what we're going to find out. In some cases we've had some parts that were secondhand, maybe shelf parts. As far as motors, in some cases it's just they can't handle what they need. So he's going to take us through that, walk us through the geothermal part. One part of our building is really warm, the other part is warm enough down in the junior high, middle school, or high school, but we're not getting the same push of hot air. And we don't know if something's somewhere in all the valves, if something's turned off. So he's going to be here tomorrow and walk through that with them. That'll be a good experience again to get an idea of what we've done. Some things to increase efficiency. In that half of our building, we're running 107% efficiency on our air handlers and heat, which is great. But on this end, we're running probably anywhere from 60 to 80 right now, so we're not getting that push down there. So we're going to find that out tomorrow when it is. So he's coming in the morning at 7:30. Also in the last month, even though we've not been in school a whole lot, I think it's going to be, after next week, 9 weeks before we have a full week of it.
The other day it was
Oh, it was cold. It was 17 below. I asked him if he had a dome over his house.
Yeah.
It was cold. I thought he had a dome over his house. It was so cold.
It was a warm one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, all I know is my car didn't warm up for about 15 minutes while I was almost here. So we have had a couple programs. Amber Murphy did a little grant with the Ohio State University Extension office. It's called ChooseMyPlate.gov. It's healthy eating habits for kids. And every Monday, someone from the OSU Extension comes in and works with her nutrition classes, talking about healthy eating and healthy foods. We've also set up something with the State Treasurer's Office where we've had the EverFi product, which is a financial literacy product that I believe it was Farmers Bank bought last year for everyone in the county. We have that, but the State Treasurer's Office is going to give us other free resources on teaching financial literacy. And again, it's linked to the OSU Extension down here in Canfield. So they'll be out doing that with our financial literacy class with Amber Murphy. They'll be doing some of that with our senior social studies kids. So that'll be a little different to get that financial piece in. We had the field trip yesterday to Cleveland for all of our juniors. I got to tell you, a lot of the kids were dressed, and Mike went with them, but a lot of kids were dressed in suits and ties, and we were definitely the best dressed group there. They spent the day there, and that's part of a research project combining art with English, and they're doing a research project over the entire, the project is going to be pick a painter, pick a artist, I should say.
The artist, the painting.
The painter. Pick a painting, and then research it, and then write about it, and why. So it was a good visit yesterday for the kids.
Absolutely. Well, wouldn't stop talking about it. He doesn't do that very much.
The kids were excellent. They truly were.
That's good to hear.
I mean, they were, and if they were
on the edge of being too close to something, and they realized that you didn't have to go tell them. They would move back, and they were very appropriate. It was a really great field trip.
And they had all the stuff right with them, pad, paper, the whole project was right there. They had to go and research it. So that was a good experience. In fact, the lady who runs it basically said they don't get a lot of high school groups up there. There were a lot of elementary.
A lot of little kids.
Yeah, a lot of little kids, but not many high schools come up anymore. So it was a good experience for the kids. Greg Melito held our financial aid night last night in the library. It was very, very well attended. Folks from YSU comes out and they talk about financial aid, the FAFSA, how to apply for financial aid. He said the library was pretty full with kids and parents, so that went very well. Also, we had homecoming last weekend. That was last Saturday night. Katrina Clockingay was the winter homecoming queen. If you were at the game or that you saw, that went very well from 8 to 11. It's a little late from this old dog, but 8 to 11. Things went well. Kids were great. Kids were well behaved. We breathalyzed all 130 of them. They were in by 8:20, so it didn't take long. The good thing is even the dates of the kids who go here, their dates that don't go here, don't question being breathalyzed at all. That's good. It's a good thing to do. I've done that for years. Also, speaking along the lines of breathalyzation, we had our 4th random last month, and everything came back negative. So we're spacing that out about every 6 weeks. We're doing a random drug test. So that went well. It takes about 15, 20 minutes on the random, sometimes a little longer. It depends how shy the bladder is. But the random testing is going very well. We've not had any complaints, and everything has gone very smooth. The company is extremely efficient. Before he leaves here, we know if he has to take anything for further testing. So they do a nice job, Great Lakes Biomed, from that standpoint. And I think that's... Oh, we have one more speaker coming on the 26th from Eastern Gateway Community College, and they're going to talk about the tuition waiver for kids who qualify next year. They go to school free, Eastern Gateway, if they qualify for the waiver. So they're going to speak to the seniors on the 26th.
We've had probably in the last month or two, we've had, I think, 3 different school districts have contacted us about our drug testing. One of the samples of our policy and procedures, so.
And back to that, the kids that are tested positive, what happens now with them? What happens?
If they test positive, I contact the parent. I meet with the parents, with the student, and then we get them hooked up. I give them 3 places to choose from to go. And what they do then is they have to pick the place. Let's say it's Meridian Services, for example. They'll call me with their lead intake person and let me know what they're doing, how long, whether it's an 8-week program, a 12-week program, or longer. And then they'll notify me every week. They let me know once the child goes to counseling. They let me know what the results are. They test them every week. Yeah. So it's worked out very well. And then at the end of the course, then they send you a report, and then you know exactly where they are. And I have the option at that stage and it costs us nothing. It's costing the parents, obviously. But I have the option at that stage to say they need more time, I feel, just because I think it will benefit. Or, okay, great, they're going to release them. It just depends. And Molly, for example, Meridian Services has been really good to work with. Keeps us good communication from that standpoint.
Any other questions? Anybody? A motion to adjourn?
Mrs. Potts? Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Benio?
Yes.
Mr. Levin?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.